Welcome to Zuma Worldwide's Health Education Conference Call. This recording is for educational purposes only. The name brand products referenced are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate any disease or illness. Health testimonies represent the personal experiences of the individuals and should not be viewed as medical advice. Please enjoy today's call.
And once again, folks, thank you for joining in on this live call this morning. Again, this is Ken Marsh, and this is a very special call for us because this call this morning, we're going to be talking about something that for many of you will be either a life-changing experience and product for you and your family, or maybe for people that you know, love, and care about. And, of course, this morning, if you're joining us, you know that this call is centered in and around Zuma's newest and most anticipated product, Natural Selection. And this is a product that, while it's just been in Zuma's line for just a few short months, is already becoming one of the most loved and talked about products in Zuma. And I can't think of a better way to get the information to you this morning about how this all came about and how we are lucky and fortunate enough to have such an incredible product in our line now. Am I giving you the backstory, kind of sharing with you some of the information that led up to this product becoming part of Zuma's exclusive wellness line. And, we're going to start by doing that with the lady who actually is the formulator and the inventor of this very special and unique compound. In fact, she is the newest member of Zuma's Scientific Advisory Board. She's somebody that you're going to learn more about on this call this morning, but somebody we have definitely enjoyed having as part of our team, and we like to call her a very good personal friend of ours. And, of course, I'm talking about Dr. Bobby McCullough. So, Dr. Bobby, are you out there?
I am. Hi, Ken.
Hey, it's great to hear you this morning. I got a crystal clear line this morning with you, which is awesome. I know this is an encore call that we're doing, and so I appreciate you jumping back in with us and being able to share some of this information this morning.
Well, thank you.
Hey, great to have you here. So, Dr. Bobby, I know we're going to be talking a little bit about the Natural Selection this morning, but let's go back a little bit in time. And I want to help folks who are listening in, especially those maybe who didn't get a chance to see you at one of our live events recently that we've been doing around the country, or maybe perhaps has not heard the previous call that we've done with you. A little bit about your background and where you started, because I know obviously, like most people, you weren't born into this world a doctor, but you decided to become one. So let's talk about, maybe what got you to that point to make that decision.
Really, it's just been kind of in my family. Cancer hit in my family, I would say in 1985, 86 era, maybe a little bit earlier, and decided to get into prevention, try to figure out what I could do to be proactive in my family's health care and really worldwide. I knew there was something larger than what we were doing because what we were doing wasn't working.
Right, and I know you have the blessing of having your mom, actually, who's been very health and wellness conscious for a long time. So you had kind of this unique experience growing up, right? She was much, much more into prevention and healing than maybe the average person would be, right?
She was. Matter of fact, she really has to take credit for opening my eyes to prevention. I was definitely traditional, brought up traditional, Roman Catholic family in Vermont, and we never questioned authority or doctors or medicine in itself. So my mom went to school and got her PhD in nutrition and prevention and said, this is a path I think you need to take. You're probably 10 years too early, and people will question you and sometimes give you a hard time, but I think this is a realm to go because I think this is the key that the medical community is missing in order to help heal people and facilitate a good lifestyle. So
it's interesting, when you get that kind of start in life, and I'm a big believer that, you really start to draw into your life those things that you focus on most consciously, right? And so here you are, you're raised with your mom who's very prevention orientated. You become that way, and you end up gravitating into an environment in civil service, right, where you're actually involved in that line of work.
That is correct. My goal in the beginning, really, and not a lot of people know this, I wanted to be a helicopter pilot within the military. And what had happened was they were not taking women at the time, and I decided, okay, then my love and passion isn't going to be rescuing people in the field. It's going to have to be in a hospital base. So what I decided to do was get into and around military services, but do civil service because that was my only other option. So I got involved with their prevention and saw, to make a long story short, saw that people that were of lower rank, in what they're called enlisted, were going to the well clinic. And then people that were of higher ranking with a little bit more status, which would be the pilots, astronauts, anybody that was a support team to pilots and family, went to preventive medicine clinic. And so they're pretty large doors. There weren't any windows. It was very private. And people really didn't kind of go to that wing of the hospital. And so I got a little nosy about it and figured out that they were doing something that I felt was very pertinent to healthcare at the time and researched, and that was using compounding. Because compounding for astronauts and pilots that needed prescription or had health challenges could use compounding and still fly. They couldn't use prescription because of the amount of expansion from prescription in the bloodstream. So that's kind of what got me active in kind of learning that it seemed that only the wealthy or people in higher places or new people had the option or the ability to purchase compounding, learn about compounding, or integrate it in their lifestyle. So I kind of wanted to bring it to where the average person could do it.
Yeah, and when I heard that story, one of the things that really stood out to me, and I remember thinking to myself, I always believed, I suppose, for many years that there was probably maybe access or information that folks in certain privileged circumstances or situations were getting access to that maybe the mass public wasn't, or maybe there was better ways of doing things that maybe just, weren't publicly promoted or talked about very much. And, when I heard you tell that story, I thought, wow, this is just really validation that there isn't just this way or this path. There might be other paths or other things to consider for health and wellness, and in this particular case, prevention. So that was awesome to hear that, hey, you were exposed to something that a lot of people weren't, made aware of. And I know that kind of sets you on that path to, really getting involved in this prevention mindset. But you wanted also, I think at that point, right, move into private practice where you wanted to kind of be, out there out of civil service, right? And I know you started actually working with some other doctors at one point, correct?
That is true. I went with a group of 9 other docs who were definitely traditional docs. A couple of them were prevention as far as a chiropractor, and one internal medicine doc. And so what I decided to do is try to bring it within the clinic. And it really wasn't welcomed. They said, kind of do your thing. That's great and wonderful, and you have the education, but this is where medicine is. So they kind of left me alone a little bit, taught them as much as I could and what they were willing to learn. But the business started to really grow. And so I knew there was something there, and I knew that if I could just get more people into compounding and less prescription, and I'm not saying that you cannot use prescription, I'm just saying that if you can safely use compounding, which is much better for your body, and specifically for your body, you were much better off.
Right, and so you were on that path, but obviously the doctors and the practice that you originally started working with, they didn't quite embrace it like you did. I know you had this really unfortunate experience that kind of, I think every time in life when we come across a difficult situation, right, it can sometimes change our direction and get us, either focused in a different area or moving strongly and confidently in an area where we know we need to be. And I know for you had an experience with that particular practice that really turned your time and attention to doing what you do today. And so if you wouldn't mind talking about that, that was a great story.
Sure. I had an elderly lady come in, and we got to talking, and she said, Dr. Bobby, it's come to the point where I either pay my rent or buy my prescription, or I use less groceries and don't pay my light bill. And I said, well, you know what? Let me just look down the hallway. I know that we get leftover prescription as far as from the pharmaceutical industry, samples, et cetera, et cetera. So I saw that there was extra. Normally what we do is with all the kind of leftover samples, et cetera, they get burned or put away somewhere. And I decided, well, here's my time to make a difference. If I can't bring prevention so much into the office, I can definitely bring in humanitarian, a feeling of helping someone in a selfless act. And so I thought, well, I'll give her this prescription. I'll let her take this compounding and prescription together, and it would save her at least the worry of either paying her rent or cutting back on groceries. And she was on a fixed income and no help, but she was trying to stay within her medication realm. And what happened was that the docs were not thrilled about that they reprimanded me and said that I should have called a board meeting and asked permission from them and then gotten it approved. And my understanding was, and still is that, if you're not using the samples and there's a patient there that needs them, I believe that should be available for those patients. And they shouldn't have to suffer whether making their rent or eating the next month. So after being reprimanded, I decided to walk back into my office, and I just put down my stethoscope and I quit. And I thought, oh, my Lord, what did I just do? Because I had the son to raise by myself, and it was a pretty devastating move. But I can tell you that I had the faith that I would be taken care of, and if I would just walk in the right path. And at that time, until this day, I feel like that was the right path to go.
Well, and knowing your story so well at this point, and having spent enough time with you, Dr. Bobby, what I know about you is that is just flat out who you are. Your integrity is strong. Your commitment level and your care for really doing what you feel you're meant to do, and that is help others enjoy more health and wellness and prevention. It doesn't surprise me at all now that I know you as well as I do that was the path that you chose. So there you were. You're kind of like, starting from square one, I guess. You decided to do your own practice, but I remember you were saying that was kind of difficult because, here you were suddenly without a job, without an income, and you're wanting to start your own practice, which, of course, is a pretty expensive thing to start up. So tell us about, how that all got started and what you had to do to get that off the ground.
Well, what I had to do is figure out what my budget was and how I could survive and how many jobs I needed to take on. And the number for me was 3 jobs. And so what I did is, reluctantly, I taught preschool and pre-K and first grade at a private facility in North Carolina, and then taught radiation and x-ray, and then one patient at a time, worked late at night to see patients from roughly 5, 6 o'clock at night until I couldn't see another patient. And it was all done by word of mouth because I was frankly absolutely broke and had student loans to pay like everybody else, and had a family to take care of. So I definitely had to make a living, and my faith was this, that for every person that I could touch and I had the opportunity to educate about prevention and help them in their walk of healthcare, that they would go ahead and they would tell another person, that I really didn't need to go and purchase advertisement in Yellow Pages and radio and network with docs and buy into the insurance arena. I just needed to do my job and have the faith that that person, one single person, would start my whole practice. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I know you had some pretty humble beginnings. I remember you talking about literally renting a room the size of a broom closet to get your practice started in the beginning. And like you said, you did it out of pure faith and belief that if you helped and served enough people that would grow. And my goodness, it has grown. I know I've had the opportunity to be in your offices there and where you're currently serving patients, and it's a beautiful facility. And it's just hard to look around your office today and think that at one point you were starting off in something as small as a broom closet.
It literally was a broom closet.
Yeah, and I know that wasn't a figure of speech. That was literally a broom closet you started off in.
It was definitely a broom closet. I went to a local chiropractor and said, look, this is my vision, and I know it's probably not going to be well accepted. However, if you can just rent a very small space to me, whatever you have, and take the chance that, I'll stay within integrity, that, you won't be sorry. And so she said, look, this is what I've got, and this is all I've got, and I don't know what to tell you. I'm behind you, but I don't have any space. And I said, I'll take anything, just anything that is very inexpensive. And she directed me towards the broom closet, and I thought, what in the world is she doing? She opened up that door, and it was very, very long, just like in an old schoolhouse, very narrow. It was just crazy. I thought, how am I supposed to get a desk in there and 2 chairs and my chair? And I remember thinking, well, I'll move the chairs over prior to the patient, and I'll scooch around my desk and sit there as they come in so I don't look like a total idiot. And I just made it work. I mean, it was very tiny and no lighting, and I had to run an extension cord from an outlet into my room and to have light, and I just made it work. And so within a very short time, I just finished out my contracts and took one patient at a time and built my practice. And really, it was the people that built it. What I did is I just educated them. I don't, treat, recommend, diagnose on education. I strictly tell them their options and let them know what is out there, and then guide them through that. Because prevention is key. If we don't have prevention, your only other option is to get sick and die. And that's the bottom line. Everybody passes away. Everybody dies of something. But if you look at the statistics, people become ill and very disease-ridden at a much, much younger age. I'm sure all of you can think back in your grandparents, and they didn't have all these antibiotics and et cetera, and people worked in the dirt, and people worked really hard, and they were living longer. And so we've got to take a look at that, where our foundation and base has to be based on prevention. And we have to take accountability and responsibility for our health. We've just got to be proactive.
Absolutely. And when you started your practice, like you said, you had this belief and this faith that if you helped enough people, that surely by word of mouth, that people would help you build your practice. And that's in fact what you did. I remember when we first met you, we tried to find out a little bit about you, and there wasn't much that we could find out there on the internet, which seems to have all the answers of any information you want to find today. But we understood why, though. It's because, like you said, you've had so many people that have referred you because of what you've been able to do and assisting them with their health, that you don't advertise and you don't market, and you have a waiting list of people now at this point that are sometimes months in advance waiting to see you, to be hopefully exposed to the information that you shared with so many others, to find that prevention path and to find some wellness in their life. So that in itself fascinates, but it's something that I think a lot of our members on this line can relate to, because of course, in Zuma Worldwide, the way we grow and the way we expand as a company simply is through people sharing, and caring and wanting to help others, make improvements in their life, whether it be, physically or financially. And that's how our business grows, of course, is through that beautiful word-of-mouth advertising. But let's talk about that for a second, because I know you've had some amazing stories and testimonies, over the years, and so many so that we could probably do a Chicken Soup for the Soul book just on the stories of the people whose lives have been transformed because of, getting involved with you and learning and getting some exposure to, like you said, those prevention routes. I know you could probably talk all day long about different testimonies from different walks of life and different people with different health issues that come to see you, but if you had to pick out just one testimony maybe of somebody who's had a great transformation working with you, who would that be?
I'll tell you, I'll give you a different one than what we discussed the other night in our first call. This gentleman is in North Carolina, and he has given me permission to speak of him, and that has to do with Agent Orange. He had several polyps within his nose and was blending his foods because the Agent Orange polyps have gone from the sinus cavity down to the esophagus. So he was not able to swallow traditional solid foods, anything that had any kind of mass to it. Everything had to be blended. And so what I decided to do was, and he happens to be my first client in that little janitor's closet, and he's the one really that I give my credit to my practice in the beginning. And he said, look, I've been to many, many docs. I've had many surgeries, and I'm just wanting to know if you can do something for me. He's elderly, and he wants to be able to taste foods, swallow foods, and not to purate everything. I said, look, I've got this compound. We can try it. I'm not sure how it's going to work on Agent Orange. I do know that it attacks disease cells. It builds the immune system, and that's the core of your health. So let's just try it. If it doesn't work, what I'll do is I'll take you to a ear, nose, and throat doc. I'll go through the surgery with you, and then we'll try the compound directly after they've been removed and see if we can keep them at bay so you're able to breathe and swallow and get around. And so what we did is we gave them the compound for a good amount of time, and they started drying up, and they started coming through the sinus cavity, and he started to be able to take in more air. And then one day he called me and said, you know, Dr. Bobby, I have to tell you something. I'm driving on the highway in Waynesville, North Carolina here, and I've got to stop and tell you that today was the first day that I took a clear breath without gasping or having any kind of mucus in my nose and my sinus cavity. And that is probably really the highlight of my whole career. And I would say it was pretty emotional. It was pretty amazing. And to this day, he can breathe and swallow and drink fluid, and he's fantastic.
When I hear the story, I can't imagine what it would be like to have to experience what he did, you know, like you said, with those polyps or tumors that were in his nose and his throat, and having every time you had them cut off, they just came back. I mean, how frustrating. I mean, I think how in the world did somebody even go back and have that done time and time again, knowing it's just going to keep growing back? But imagine, I'm trying to picture what it would be like to suddenly now have met you and really through a prevention pathway, you're no longer experiencing this. And it's been how many years since that happened?
Let's see, since 2002, 2003.
Wow. So the polyps have not come back in all that time.
That's correct. And he is elderly, and so elderly people, you know, have a lot of health challenges now with everything that they've been exposed to in their era, and it's just been a real blessing, and it's been really amazing for him. And I know that someday I think he'd like to come on and be a guest speaker, because he himself just can't believe it, and I can't either. You know, we didn't have clinicals on it, and there wasn't a guarantee. But I can tell you that to see something of that caliber happen, I mean, I was collecting polyps and analyzing them and sending them to labs to even have them as a second opinion to make sure it was Agent Orange. And when it dissolved that and started drying the polyps, I don't know, I could talk about it forever. It's just an amazing thing when someone can breathe and eat.
Yeah, things we take for granted. Well, you're talking about this compound, and for those who might be listening for the first time, or maybe aren't quite sure what we're talking about, you've been involved in compounding, like you said at the beginning of this call, for a very long time. I know you've devoted years and years of your life to working in laboratory and experimenting with various different compounds and putting them together. And what you've created and come up with is something that's been so beneficial for so many people. And, you know, this particular story is just one example of so many people's lives who've been transformed, you know, through this compounding. Talk a little bit about, if you wouldn't mind, Dr. Bobby, your background, because a lot of people might think, well, you know, did you just get lucky and stumble across this, or did you actually do a lot of research and investigation? I mean, most people probably don't know how really educated you are in so many different areas. So let's talk a little about some of your background education, some of the certifications and degrees that you've got.
Okay. I have a PhD in nutrition. I have a degree in neuroendocrinology, nutritional neuroendocrinology, and a degree in naturopathy. So combining that together creates a pretty well-rounded person to educate and give you information and recommendations on what you need to do in prevention. It's all based around prevention internally and externally of the body. It's just not specifically for one part of the body. And that's the way I look at my clients, is a whole person, not just broken up in bits and pieces where they have an issue with their arm, because what you think might be the issue and where it's stemming from is usually the opposite.
Right. One of the things I know you do a great job at, and you specialize at, is looking at the whole person. It's not just here's a symptom and here's a problem, we need to get rid of that symptom. You've done a great job over the years, which is probably why you've had such incredible success, track record with so many people that have come to see you, that you've looked at them as a whole person and looked at all the different areas and aspects of their health. And I know that's part of your training and your education is to look for those things, right? Because you're not just using some of the traditional, you're using some advanced technology in your analysis of trying to help people with their health.
That is correct.
So let's talk about this compound for a second, because again, I know you've spent many years in development in this compound, and
Yes.
and I'm going to help people listening in understand this connection to Zuma here in just a minute. But talk a little bit about this compound and some of the things that it's been able to do for people in their bodies.
Well, to put it in a nutshell, what it does is it attacks disease cells, disease masses, anything that is foreign to the body, and at the same time builds the immune system, because we all know that without an immune system, you cannot heal. You have got to have a good foundation. You've got to have good water, which I obviously recommend X2O to everyone that I see. I don't see anybody now unless they're either on the path of X2O, taking X2O, or they are becoming a member to be put on X2O. The mineral is brilliant. It absorbs very quickly in the body, and it also helps absorb the compound that I've developed much quicker in the body, so you can use it in an acute care or a critical care. But either way, building the immune system works.
Well, and one of the things that people might be listening in and maybe don't know the story, I mean, the reason we even have this communication with you, the reason you're now part of our scientific advisory board, and we have this brand new product called Natural Selection, has to do with what you just said, X2O. I mean, we were fortunate enough to have one of our Zuma members meet you at your home, doing a little work around your home there for you, and they introduced you to X2O. And I know you were a little skeptical at first about it, a little reluctant to really take a closer look at it. But if you wouldn't mind, go into that story when you looked into X2O, and again, I know at first you thought it's just another one of those nutritional products that is probably going to be an overpromise and an underdeliver, but you were actually pretty surprised, right, when you put this product to the test in your lab.
I did. To be very frank, this is not how I feel now, but at the time, I thought, this is just a kind of a gimmick, because there's 50 million people wanting to sell you some kind of snake oil that works forever and for everything, and I just didn't want a part of it. It was hard enough for me to get a good reputation. It was difficult of a battle to get into prevention and be accepted. I just didn't need to put my name with something that was a fly-by-night company. And I can tell you that this is anything but. When I went and tested the sash, what I did is I cut it open, I put the mineral in and mixed it with my compound, and saw that it crystallized. And what that means in layman's terms is that it bonded with the actual palladium, allopulic acid, and the other minerals and vitamins that I put in the compound. And so I have not seen that, and I've never seen that. And here's the research on it. Is for years I've been working with 154 different compounds within my office and with clients. And everything that I had tried to bind together ended up being in my compound. Anything other than that didn't make the cut. So here I was in front of me, standing, looking in a microscope, watching the crystallization with the minerals that Zuma had. So I humbly went back into my office and felt pretty humbled because I wasn't going to give them the time of day. I thought, you know what, you guys have something here, and we need to either speak to the chemist, the owner, someone in charge that can talk to me scientifically about what is actually in the mineral. I can see what the minerals are, and I can see what they can do. I just need to know how the compounding is housed. And so that's when they called you.
Right. And, I was fortunate enough to get that call, and I remember feeling a little intimidated when I started talking to you, because I could tell at first you were a little skeptical, and then when you finally realized in your own lab analysis that the X2O was, like you said, crystallizing with your compound, which, again, if I'm not mistaken, that means basically the combination of the X2O with your compound is basically an ability for it to be used quicker and more efficiently in the body, correct?
That is correct. It bonds quicker. Absolutely.
Okay, so you're excited. We're excited because we didn't know quite what you had yet. We didn't know much about you, but when we obviously started to learn more about you and the numbers, literally hundreds and hundreds of people that you've worked with and been able to help turn their health around, we thought, wow, we've got to find a way to do this. We've got to find a way to utilize your compound because it does work so beautifully with X2O. So I know you were already ahead of us. You were already thinking, I'm going to make sure that every one of my patients going forward is using X2O with my compound, and I think you're pretty adamant about that. You don't let anybody walk out of your office today without drinking X2O in their water, right?
That is correct. And I do want to say, and I want everybody to understand that with or without me connecting with someone in corporate as Ken to discuss about an over-the-counter version, with or without the company, I would have used the mineral no matter what. When I saw that happen, I thought, okay, the first thing that came to my mind was, how am I going to get it? How am I going to get it in bulk? And who do I speak with? I was not thinking at the time to even join with a company, because you have to remember that it was very difficult for me to, one, build a reputation. It was all on good standings, work, and integrity. And I wasn't willing to put my name and tag it with a company, and especially a dietary supplement company, because I couldn't afford to be in the same category because the practice was so much different. And so
Right.
when I looked at the mineral, I thought, well, I'll get the mineral and I'll put everybody on it because it works. And so that's how strongly I believed in the mineral. And then I was blessed with the opportunity of getting together with Zuma and understanding what Zuma was really about. And to me, in a nutshell, Zuma is about this. It's about prevention and healing and making a decent living, so you don't have to worry about providing for yourself, health-wise or financially. And those are the two things in the medical arena that kills people the most, is over-medication of pharmaceutical and dying trying to mortgage your home or sell everything you have to get the medicine that you need to try to survive, and in return you don't. So that's, really spoke a great deal to me about the founder of Zuma, what he believes in, what corporate believes in, and then not only did what corporate believed in, it all trickled down in every single person that had something to do with Zuma. And every single time that I've met someone in Zuma, they have always put a light on education, prevention, and they actually care about the people they're talking with. This is not a tier company that, and everybody knows them out there, that is just for the buck. Every single person I've ever come in contact that has something to do with Zuma has the same heart as all the way up to corporate. So that's why
Wow.
I chose this company.
And it's humbling to hear you say that, and it's a huge compliment to us at Zuma. I mean, we're thrilled, obviously, to have this alignment with you, and of course now, thanks to this alignment, we have natural selection, and natural selection is really built from the same science and the same years of experience you've had working in your clinical compound. It's just basically an over-the-counter version. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, Dr. Bobby, now that we've got natural selection in the line and we've got X2O, it's such a beautiful marriage with that product, and people can now use that and hopefully practice prevention, so they don't have to be in a difficult health situation and be one of the patients trying to see you, right? What do you see for the future? I mean, are you excited about what's happening here? Because obviously there's only 24 hours on the clock. For you personally, you can only reach so many people as an independent doctor. I've got to imagine you've got to be pretty excited about this prospect of so many more people, getting on this prevention path, like you said, and being able to utilize this over-the-counter version of your compound and just protect themselves and their family.
Absolutely. The bottom line is prevention. I don't care what kind of disease you have or what health care you are with, whether it's traditional, prevention, Chinese medicine, it just doesn't matter. Everybody needs the foundation of good water, good nutrition, and a good immune system. Whatever path that you go down from there, it is your business. However, if you don't have good water, good nutrition, and good foundation and education to be a voice for yourself in preventing sickness and disease, that's just everything. And what a better investment it is to invest in yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thanks to our diligent efforts together and your willingness to help us at every turn, we've got natural selection now in the line, and of course, that in combination with X2O is such a beautiful marriage, but it's also such an affordable path for prevention like you were talking about. And I know we talked about that's one of the challenges that so many people face sometimes is the financial aspect of battling disease or illness once that occurs. But if we can just invest, like you said, a little bit in ourselves up front and go down the route of prevention, my goodness, not only potentially the money it'll save us down the road, but just the enjoyment we'll have in life of having more abundant health. Dr. Bobby, I know we're running short on time because you've got another appointment to go to. So any other final thoughts or comments before we wrap up the call here with you?
I would just say, please, if you're on the fence about getting involved with Zuma and you're just not quite sure, I'm telling you, it would be the biggest mistake for you not to be involved. They're good people. They're solid people. They're about education and prevention. And I'll tell you, with the X2O, you just can't beat it.
I know that you believe that because I know that every one of the patients that sees you now is a proud consumer of X2O along with this wonderful compound. Now, Bobby, I know that we've got all kinds of information on Zuma's website, and we've got brochures and information on the compound and what it does, so I know folks can access that information, and I know that now that they have the story and an understanding from you of how and why this has come about and why you're so passionate about Zuma and, more importantly, about being able to help more people get exposure to this incredible compound. It's just something that we're excited about as a company, and again, very much thankful to you for all the help that you've given us, and more importantly, all the things that you're planning on doing for us as we move forward together as this relationship prospers. So again, I want to thank you, Bobby, for being on the call today.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Take care.
Thanks, Dr. Bobby, for being on.
Bye.
Well, folks, there you have it. I mean, Dr. Bobby obviously is somebody who is definitely in line with Zuma's philosophies and ways of thinking in terms of helping people prevent. Our motto, of course, being changing the health of a generation. I mean, folks, that's not just a fancy slogan that we put, in our marketing materials. That's a real mission at Zuma Worldwide. And you can imagine when we met Dr. Bobby and we started hearing about her and who she is and what she does, we thought there's no way that this is an accident. This was meant to be. We worked very diligently to make sure that when we found out about her compound and what it was doing for so many people, we knew we had to find a way to get an over-the-counter version into the marketplace. And thankfully, we were able to work very closely with Dr. Bobby to make that happen. So, again, that's what you have today in Natural Selection is this amazing one-of-a-kind wellness compound that, as you heard Dr. Bobby say, when combined with X2O, what an amazing combination. And it's something that is very affordable, especially when we look at what it does for human health and prevention, and to be able to access it now and get this incredible prevention wellness compound. I'm speechless at times when I hear and see some of the things that people have reported that they've been able to do utilizing this compound. And, one of the things is we've got a lot of Zuma members now using the compound, using X2O in combination, and I want to make sure that you guys understand truly what you have in your hands here. And guys, I'm looking forward to having so many more of you on this line listening in this morning, being some of our future success stories and talking about the differences that Zuma's made in your life. So until we talk again, folks, have a great rest of the weekend. Certainly look forward to having you on another future Zuma call. Until then, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.